Wednesday. Word. Wednesday. Word. Wednesday. Word. And we are live. What's going on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube Live? It is your man, Coach Wroe. Today is Wednesday. I'd like to welcome you to the first row. And if it is Wednesday, you should know what that means. It's time for the Wednesday word. That's Wednesday word. Before we jump straight into tonight's topic, let's be very clear. This is the last Wednesday word on the first row. Though I am at the end of the season, this is the season ending or season finale, what they would typically call it, for the Wednesday word. We are actually going to no longer have the Wednesday word on the first row. And so tonight, jumping straight into it, tonight's topic is the greatest lesson. And I always like to share what I mean by my topic. What do I mean by the topic, the greatest lesson? I have been doing the Wednesday word for over a decade now in different, it's had different setups and how I've set the show up, but I've been doing it for over a decade now. And after over a decade of creating Wednesday word content, I've shared many of the lessons that I've gleaned from my life and reflections across my life, reflections across the day, reflections in real time, reflections from others. But there's been one lesson that has been intertwined into every lesson that I have shared on the first row. So tonight I have actually one tool for you when it comes to the greatest lesson. And I have one bonus tool for you because I feel like that is a separate tool in and of itself. So let's jump straight into it. Tool number one, and the only tool that I have for this evening, is when it comes to the greatest lesson for me has been to continue to evolve or continue to grow. And I thought it was really important, especially when I think about like language. Last night we were doing the men's circle and one of the men on the panel used the word cherish. And I looked up the word cherish because it resonated so strongly and intensely with me that I wanted to know the actual definition of cherish versus what I assume cherish means because I've heard the word before. And so I did that tonight as well with evolution or to evolve. What is evolution? What does it mean to evolve? And really, when I looked up the definition of evolution, it says the gradual development of something, especially from a simple to a more complex form. When I tell you the greatest lesson is evolution and to continue to evolve, that's really what this past decade has been. What's going on, Brother Bruce? That's what this past decade has been for me. It has been a gradual and continual improvement from Billy, who he was 10 years ago, which was a much more simple, less refined individual, to Billy, who he is today, who is making much better choices and is more intentional about the choices that he's making to get to the destination that he's trying to arrive at. I talk about this in my book, Fire Your Job, Hire Your Passion, where we talk about, I think Brian Tracy uses the Kaizen method. It's a Japanese term, Kaizen meaning good improvement. And that good improvement, what it does is it allows us to, over a long period of time, to incrementally improve. And when you look at the gradual development of evolution, that's really what evolution is about when we are looking to grow. I said last night, when we're growing, it's an uncomfortable position that we're typically in. There's typically discomfort when we are growing. And when we are continuing to evolve over time, that means in some way, shape, or form, in some manner, we might be in a continual process or stage of discomfort. Now, here's the thing that kind of tricks us when we're evolving as over a significant period of time, is that discomfort that we feel is not the same discomfort that we felt yesterday. It's not the same discomfort we felt the day before yesterday. Those discomforts, now we don't feel those. And because we are continually and incrementally growing, the discomfort rises with our growth. It's like being at the gym, right? I can go to the gym. I can bench press, let's say 245-pound plates. I'll throw those weights up and down, up and down, up and down, and then I'll be done throwing those weights up. And then the next day, if I add 5 pounds, I'll still put them up, but it's going to be a little uncomfortable. And as I get stronger, the next time I go and lift, I throw another 5 pounds on. And you can continue to do this until you get to some maximum amount of weight that you choose to lift. I think at some point your skeletal structure can only take so much, but your muscles can eventually grow to help support that skeletal structure, and thus the weight that you continue to lift over an extended period of time increases. That's what that discomfort is as we gradually improve. It may not be excruciating pain. I don't think that growth has to be excruciating. I don't think you have to completely wear yourself out. But when it comes to how we continue to evolve, this is something that takes place over time. You can go back to like animals, right? Animals evolve over like generational lifespans. Like their beaks, if it's a bird, their beaks may shorten because now they're eating a different food source, or their beaks may lengthen now because they're eating a different food source. But this happens over times, and it's kind of a survival of the fittest, right? The best genes that have the best opportunity to survive typically win and propagate the species with more of those genes. Except for we don't have generations in our own lifetime. We only have our lifetime. And so when we're looking at the gradual improvement and the need to continue to evolve, it's taking our ability to understand that where we are today is a result, and this is one of my favorite quotes, and it's funny because it's a quote that I wrote, but that's one of my favorite quotes. We are who we are today because of who we practiced being yesterday. So who are we practicing to be for tomorrow? If we're practicing the same things that we practiced yesterday, then we're only practicing really only the same things that we practiced yesterday. We're really only practicing to be where we are today. And we can be consistent at that line, but that line is not growth. Complacency is not growth. That will keep you stagnant only for so long. And at some point, one or another, the bar changes. And when the bar changes, all of a sudden, what was your best effort that was maybe keeping you at the top of the class is now considered average, because now everybody has gotten to that level. And then I forget which athlete said it, but you show me a person who is gifted naturally. Eventually, the person who was not as gifted as the person who practices daily surpasses that person's gift and skill. That's what it is when it comes to continuing to evolve. The reason we continue to evolve is because it's not simply about outdoing who we were yesterday. It's not simply about being in competition with who we were yesterday. But the reason we continue to push and strive to thrive, is because the moment we stop pushing is the moment that eventually we start to slide back. And it's not even, think about, I've had an injury in my shoulder once before. And my shoulders before the injury were extremely well-developed, strong, pretty good shoulders. They served me well. What's going on, casual? They served me very well. And then I had this shoulder injury. And a couple weeks ago, I was shooting around at a basketball court. And though I remembered how to shoot, my shots were just so inaccurate. Why? Because my shoulder, I stopped using it. I became complacent in the level that it was at, partially because of the injury. But then when the injury was gone, I didn't do the things necessary to develop the shoulder back. So guess what I'm doing now? Working to develop the shoulder back. But I didn't do the things necessary to develop the shoulder back. And so when I tried to go back to do things that I used to be decent at, I was a decent basketball player. Now I'm not so decent. Now I'm like, what's basketball? At least my body seems like, what's basketball, right? And so I'm working to get back up to that level. But here's the reason why just simply continuing to evolve serves us well, is because if we're continually pushing ourselves to evolve, continually pushing ourselves to grow gradually, then that gradual ramp up over an extended period of time, let's say a lifetime, right, has the ability to reach a higher height than versus if we just peak and then we fail, and then we peak and then we fail, and then we peak and then we fail. We actually have a better opportunity to reach a higher heights through sustained, consistent efforts. And so the greatest lesson tonight really is about continuing to evolve, realizing for myself that everything that I have been blessed with today, well, blessed with by God today, has come from whether it's spiritual, mental, or financial. Doesn't really matter. Everything that I have has come from my willingness to push, to stretch a little further, and my unwillingness to be complacent and compromise who I want to become through complacency. So yeah, don't get me wrong. There have been times where I have been delayed and I haven't pushed myself, like going back to my shoulder, right? I haven't pushed myself, but that's the human part of growth. We don't always get it right. We don't always get it wrong, though, either. And realizing that if you don't do anything at all, you're probably getting it wrong. Honestly, if you just sit there and say, well, I'm so afraid of the decision that I might make that it could be wrong, that I'm not going to make a decision, that in and of itself is the wrong decision. Continue to evolve, continue to grow, continue to shine your light into the world in a space to where it can be seen. And that brings us to bonus tool number 2 when it comes to the greatest lesson. Bonus tool when it comes to the greatest lesson is don't be afraid to share. And I say that because after 10 years plus of doing the Wednesday Word, I think about how doing the Wednesday Word has pushed me not only to grow, but as I share the information, as I share the lessons, as I share the insights, as I share the wisdom, that continues that dialogue for myself internally to continue to push myself to grow, to continue to shine that light. It's almost like if we were all on a search party and we were looking for somebody in the dark. And I have this searchlight that's amazing. It can illuminate the entire area, but I'm the only one who can see the spectrum of light that is shining. That means only I'm going to be able to find the person. What I've done by creating the first row and what I've done by using this segment, the Wednesday Word, is I've changed the light from a frequency only I can see, which are my experiences personal to me, my insights, my reflections personal to me. I've changed the spectrum, not the frequency, the spectrum of that light into where the entire world can see it. All you got to do is go to youtube.com/first row and you can see the light. And so bonus tool is really don't be afraid to share, because I will say in the decade that I've been doing this, sharing has been the thing that has kept me motivated in the times where maybe I didn't feel like putting up new content, in the times where I didn't feel like making the right decision outside of the first row. I was like, man, I don't really feel like making the right decision. I just want to blow all my money, or I just want to make this bad decision over here because it's easier, right? But the fact that I'm sharing puts an additional, I'm going to say pressure, but it's a good pressure, puts an additional pressure on me because people are relying on me, not necessarily to get everything right, but they're relying on me to not be a hypocrite. They're relying on me to take my own advice. Like, what do I look like being up here week after week after week for 10 years, giving advice to people that I'm not taking myself? That doesn't mean that I get them, because there's stories that I've shared where I've got it completely wrong. And the reflection is okay, I realize I got it wrong. I got to work to get it right next time. And sometimes I get it wrong the next time. However, that spectrum that I'm shining is now a spectrum that the world can see. And so when it comes to learning new things, when it comes to getting new insights, when it comes to having different perspectives, because I've changed the spectrum from this inward spectrum that I can only see to an outward perspective that others can see, now others can add their insights and their gifts to the legacy and the story of the first row. And then last but not least, don't be afraid to share also goes into there wasn't a moment in the Wednesday Word where a few people actually came up and did Wednesday Words, and they weren't me. They were somebody else who were sharing a lesson that they had learned. Maybe we'll bring Wednesday Word back in that regard, where I'm not sharing it, but others are sharing their lessons. I don't know, but it's going to be a while before the Wednesday Word comes back to the first row, if it ever comes back to the first row. But those are the two lessons that I really wanted to share with you, or the two tools. Well, the first tool was, again, continue to evolve. Um, Evolution is this gradual process. And as we continue to gradually grow and improve, we should continue to gradually strive to become more sophisticated versions of ourselves. And then the bonus tool was, again, do not be afraid to share. What is so great about sharing your experiences is that you will find others are having the same and or similar experiences to you, and they need that voice in the darkness sometimes, or that light in the darkness sometimes, to help see their way out of their situations. So that's what I have for you guys this evening. As always, like to share a personal story, something that got me thinking about what the last first row would be about, or the last Wednesday word would be about. And this one is really a decade of transformation. And as I was creating this last Wednesday word content, I started thinking about how the Wednesday word started, because 10 years is a long time to do something, period. It's a long time to do something. And I started thinking about, number one, I've always been this person who would like journal and write down thoughts and write down ideas. That's just who I've been since I was a child. But at one point, I decided, you know what, I want to sit with some other people and have some deeper conversations. And I created this thing called a mastermind. Now, this mastermind started as an idea, like many of my ideas, as an idea on paper. And I reached out to some people and said, hey, look, you guys want to get together like one time a month and have some deep conversations about topics and challenges. So, you sound good? Sounds good. A couple people signed up. Our first couple ones were in a barbershop, in a room that wasn't used in a barbershop. And we would just sit in the barbershop, have these conversations, and close up and call it a day. And from there, I moved them from the barbershop to a co-working space. I actually had a space in Cap City that I would rent every month. I rented for the month. I rented it, and I could use that space for the mastermind. And in that mastermind group is where the first Wednesday words, even though it wasn't on a Wednesday, the first Wednesday words started to begin to develop. And then I had an experience where the first Wednesday word that I didn't know was a Wednesday word came to the internet. And it was really about content about being a father to the fatherless, and an experience that I had with a child throwing a temper tantrum at the state fair. And from that, I remember going back to the mastermind the following month and saying, hey, I did this thing. It kind of felt organic. It felt good. And I feel like I'm going to do more of this thing. And so I just would grab my phone and stand in my backyard with my phone. And the Wednesday word actually started off as this like 7-minute backyard dialogue that I was having with my phone. And I would I'd go on in the morning time right before I left for work, do a 7-minute quick share on whatever the topic was on. And then I would go to work and be on to my day and on to my week. And then when I moved to Utah about 6 years ago, I switched the Wednesday word from the morning time, because of what time I had to start work, to the evening time. And my wife, we were dating at the time, but my wife said, maybe you should look at adding some like structured tools into the Wednesday word. And by doing that, the Wednesday word went from like this 7-minute quick chat or a quick share of reflection or experience to a 30-minute segment. And from that 30-minute segment, birthed intersation panels, birthed other panel type discussions as well. And now I feel like that as the Wednesday word comes to an end, when I talk about that continual evolution and that gradual development, I feel like now First Row is moving, or the Wednesday word is moving from just being on the digital screen to more in-person things. So now I'm in the process of, as you know, planning the men's circles, the men's circles conference Legacy in Sacramento, California. I also have launched the men's circle segment on the first row. And that's really where I feel like I'm being guided at right now, is to address some of the challenges we have as men and some of the issues that we have as men as well. Um, but I share this story to say this is a process that has taken over a decade to transform me into who I was when I started to who I am today. I'm much more strategic and much more articulate in the conversations that I have. I'm much more capable of guiding deeper conversations than I was back then. I'm much more capable today in doing those things. And this has all been a part of that transformational journey. And I say this to say that though sometimes we start journeys not really sure of where the end of that journey may take us or where that journey is going, um, embrace those journeys of growth, the journeys of growth. Let's be specific. Embrace those journeys that challenge us to grow and that uh, encourage us to grow, because those journeys are going to take you so far in life, and you honestly do not know who will be impacted, who you will save, who you will help in these growth journeys. And the reality is out of all the people that I have helped in the Wednesday Word content that I produce, because people give me feedback quite frequently on the Wednesday Word. But out of all the people that I've helped, I have to say the person that I've helped the most has been myself. And not in a selfish way, but in a way that is, uh, it has brought me to this version of Billy in 2023 that I'm much more happy with, much more excited to see continue to grow, and much more proud of. Dang. Wow. Proud of. Um, wow, that one hit. Um, so that's really all I have for you guys tonight. I guess I have a template that I use for the Wednesday Word. And one of the questions that I always ask myself when I'm creating Wednesday Word content is, what do I want to compel the viewer to do or the listener to do? And really, this Wednesday Word isn't just about the lesson of evolution and the lesson of growth as that being the greatest lesson. It's really about continuing to grow, continuing to learn, continuing to explore, continually pushing yourself to higher heights. And then right behind that, always continue to share the wisdom that you gain along the way. So that's what I have for you guys this evening. I would like to thank each and every one of you for the years, the years of love and support that you have given me as I've created this content. It definitely helped me through the journey. And other than that, that's all I got for you guys tonight. I do have I would say watch the closing credits, because I do have something else that I put at the end of tonight's closing credits. But other than that, if you like this video, please share it. If you share it, please like it. I'm always happy to engage with you in the live chat. Thank you, Bruce. Thank you, Casual, for tuning in live tonight. And I'm happy to include you or engage with you in the comments if you comment on the video within the first 7 days. After that, I move on to the next thing. But for all of those who have supported me through the years, once again, I want to say thank you. And for the last time, for the Wednesday Word, I will say one love, peace, and God bless. Thanks for sitting on the first row.